dialed in to Bucks and Brews, you might hear something you can use. Like tips on your cash or tips on the suds. You're gonna want to use the smarts of these stuff. Cause they know the brews, and they know the Bucks, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks. So listen up, cause shit's not funny. And save yourself some beer money. Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
Brews.
and Brews.
Bucks and Brews.
So welcome back to Bucks and Brews. Nick, we had our most popular episode from last week with Jack Razor.
Yeah.
So
that was a good episode.
That was a good episode, and some of his fans outed the band quite a bit on social media.
Very quickly too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited to have him back on
I
and
am too.
talk about actually how to grow a business and hopefully build a self-confidence so he understands that like not normal people get to sell that many shirts just randomly, right?
So let's start with what we're drinking.
Okay.
We're sponsored.
We are sponsored.
I do love a good sponsor.
By one of our guests.
By one of our guests, the Millennial Money Witch.
Yeah.
Jessie DaSilva. We have Narcosis. I can't read with my glasses this closely. Yeah, you read.
Narcosis. Bourbon barrel aged imperial stout. So actually fantastic.
Very bourbony.
Yeah.
I know it'll put some hair on your chest.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna tell you a story about that after I talk about the other one that you sponsored us with. Calypso. It's a bourbon barrel aged Cuban coffee imperial stout brewed with coffee and milk sugar.
That sounds delicious too.
It is. So, right, we talk about putting hair in your chest, right? And that's all I heard growing up. Oh, you want hair on your knuckles, hair on your chest, hair on your back. You know, you're gonna be a man. Now
I heard that too.
Now I take my shirt off. Oh my gosh, look how hairy your back is. And it's like everybody's like waxing and like shaving their stuff. And it's like hairless is the way to go. And I'm like, the one thing I had going for me is I became the biggest man of most men, right? Like
you had all that hair on your chest that left your head.
That's a factual statement.
I thought it was the stuff here that left his head.
Well, that left his head too.
Kind of trickled down. So,
Dawn,
what are you drinking?
Mountain Dew.
Dawn's hitting it hard tonight. Dawn, for those that don't know, owns Break Room Therapy and is my wife. So, you know, she
fight.
Yeah, she has the unfortunate pleasure of having to deal with me, especially when I drink. Mike, what do you got?
A couple things I'm going to drink. First thing I popped into was a Transient Artisan Ales. What is it called? Just a Slice, a sour wheat ale with cranberry, plum, blood orange, cherry, vanilla, cinnamon, and milk sugar. And then I'm going to go into a Pontoon Brewing Untitled Art, sweet and sour Georgia peach.
Nice.
I think the first one, they should rename it to Dr. Pepper. That thing had 23 full flavors mixed into it. Jeez Louise.
Nicole, what do you have? Nicole from Betty's Pages.
Got water.
Hey, water's fine.
Over here. Yeah.
And Jessie, what do you have tonight?
I have red wine because I had a beer order from Shipped and it didn't happen. It got canceled. And I'm like very upset about it because I had a coconut coffee and what was it? Coconut coffee and chocolate stout in there that I was super excited about from Funky Buddha.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like very sad about it. So
good.
You should be. That's a great beer.
So
we lost her sound.
Oh, she just froze for a second.
Oh, she was talking. Nope. We lost her sound completely.
Yeah, we cannot hear you. Try again.
there
you are.
Okay.
It is a Monday for both of us, huh?
I think it's a Monday for all of us.
It really is, yeah. So
It better be Tuesday. I don't want to go with this.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So I assume you got the beer that we sent you.
I didn't. Yeah, I did get it. Oh my God. First of all, it arrived when I was in DC traveling and like I was visiting my sister for the holidays. And so I told my fiance, I was like, you better not crack into that while I'm gone because he cannot be trusted. So he was like, and then when we came back and we finally had it, he had hidden them all in the back of the fridge. He was like, I literally put them out of my visual sight so I would not be tempted. So they were all great. I really loved them.
Fantastic.
Does he like tacos?
Ask it again, Nick.
Does he like tacos?
Do I like tacos?
Does your fiance?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, who doesn't like tacos?
Oh, apparently my
It
wife right
seems
now.
Nick's wife does not like tacos.
This
This
is-
was a heavy discussion
No.
before you hopped on.
No, she doesn't like
Okay, she doesn't like white
white
people
American
tacos.
tacos.
Right. Oh,
She likes real
the worst might happen twice on this episode, just to let you guys know. My wife doesn't know. It's great.
Oh, she knows now. My wife's sitting next to you.
Yeah, not yet. This is so really excited to
Yeah.
have all of our guests on. Today's episode, how to leave a corporate job and start your own adventure, right?
Yeah, so case in point, all three guests
Oh,
left real jobs to go do their own thing. So Don worked many auditing jobs over the years, decided this shit sucks and went and opened a rage room. Nicole, I don't know what you did besides the Air Force. What did you do besides the Air Force?
Yeah, I worked in banking. I was a personal banker. I did basically everything in banking.
there you go.
And now she's opened a very accepting bookshop in Lowell, Michigan, who is not very accepting.
I'm incredibly accepting. They just don't like me very much.
You are. Lowell's not.
Yes. A portion of them.
And then of course Jessie was a lawyer and now is a life coach. And you have some really great news that I saw today. Why don't you throw that
I
out there?
do indeed. Yeah. So I'm going to be finalizing a book deal this week. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really
you should sell it.
excited.
I know, right?
Yeah, we know a bookstore
Yeah.
owner.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
First
So I'm
things first.
really jazzed about it. I have a few publishers interested, but I know who is in my heart, and that'll be finalized this week. So I'll have more details on everything, but it's looking like it'll be in print September 2023. So
Nice.
it's going to be so
Congratulations.
exciting.
That's a long process. Holy cow.
It's not quick to
Yeah.
write a book.
Well, there's also supply chain issues. So
Yeah.
that's a big part of it, is like the production a lot of the stuff's been pushed back. So they said in the past they've been able to do things like within the year, but it's just all of the shipping stuff and all of the supply has been like really slowed down. But that's okay. Everything happens with divine timing.
I'm hoping. I don't know what today's timing was, but it's not a well timed.
So I kind of want to ask everybody, why they left corporate life. Let's start with Nicole. So you were a personal banker and decided, fuck this shit.
Yeah, basically. So I had a job that I loved. I loved it. I loved my team. I loved the institution that I worked for. I loved what I got to do. And then I got fired, and it was bullshit. Basically, I got fired for speaking truth to a man and not being a man myself. And so then I got a new job. And technically, like on every level, I got paid more. I had a better title. Everything was better, but I hated it. I hated my life. I went from doing all of the things to I just inputted into a computer and somebody in a different part of the state made all the decisions. And that was not at all conducive for my style. And so I was immediately unhappy and started looking, what do I want to do? And basically as like a kind of a joke, I wrote a business plan of what kind of store I would love to see and would love to open. And I showed it to my friends and I showed it to my husband, and they were supposed to tell me like, that's cute, but how about you go get like a job at a different financial institution and make lots of money and do all of those things. And instead they were like, yeah, no, you should do that. You should definitely do that. And so I did.
There you go.
So Don worked many jobs, especially in auditing. And then the last auditing job was in Holland. It was a shitty company. And literally she called me on the way home and goes, fuck this shit, I'm not going back.
Yeah, but that wasn't the last job.
No,
because
that
I
was
did-
the last auditing job.
Right.
And then you decided to do what?
Well, I did VW for a while.
No, this was after VW. You did VW, then you did that place in Holland.
Mm-mm.
Yes,
I
you did.
went, no.
No, you did.
Start fighting.
I did
I
it.
know my brain doesn't work.
I went from that until shipped. And then from shipped, I went back. Now I have the business.
You went from VW to the place in Holland for like a month and then to shipped.
Okay, anyhow.
So While hopping your jobs for the past 15 years, what happened with why did you not want to do that anymore? Because right? Like Ship gave you so much freedom. I mean, you had your time frame, right?
Well, Ship worked in the fact that I was able to set my own schedule and work when I wanted, but you couldn't count on it. You couldn't rely on it. And then they started to change a lot of the pay structure. And that just really started to change a lot of the things too. I mean, it was nice to work for yourself. And that's probably what helped kind of train me for now becoming my own business owner. But the longer you were not working for corporate America, the more I knew I wasn't going to go back to that. I didn't know what I wanted to do until I came up with the business idea, but I was not going to back to work for somebody.
Well, and I mean, I know the story and so Nick and probably Nicole, but how did you hop on this? Because some people don't know because they haven't listened to every episode.
How did I hop on what?
Your business.
The business.
I have an angry husband. He's the one there on the end.
Yeah,
No,
see with all those
I'm part of a
glasses.
group on Facebook called Squad Betty, and I was looking for an outlet for my husband because he's a very angry person and just wrapped a little bit tighter than what I start off on every day. And I was looking for an outlet for him. But honestly, recently, I think I've started realizing that it's not only because of you. I think a lot of it's the growing up that I had in foster care and a lot of the abuse before that kind of gave me a different way of realizing that sometimes talking is not the only therapy. So once I learned of a rage room, I connected with it really, really well. And I decided we had to have one here. And I was going to be really mad if I didn't open it and somebody else did.
Well, and full disclosure, when you and I talked about it,
You thought I was stupid.
I didn't think you were. I thought it wasn't for me.
Right.
It was not for me, but I fully understood the idea. And I think you can agree with this. So many people have contacted you and said, hey, this is easy, right? I can spend $1,500 and I can open a rage room because there happens to be a guide online about spending $1,500 to open a rage room. Is that possible?
No.
Can you speak more to that?
It takes a lot more to open a business than what I think people give it credit for. I mean, yeah, you can make it look successful and you can make it look really easy, but there's a lot of things in the background that really make it work. And a lot of the things that people don't see. With my particular business in general, I mean, you have to consider the height of your ceilings and what kind of business structure are you in? Is it industrial or is it warehouse? Is it commercial, retail? Where are you putting that business? And then the inventory becomes a lot more of your life than what you expected it to be. And then wearing every single hat. I mean, even Nicole, I mean, she's amazing on TikTok, but up until then, it doesn't sound like you ever did marketing. And now here you're trying to market your business as well. But yeah,
Well,
there's a lot of things.
full disclosure, Dawn and Nicole talk quite a bit, and they opened their businesses around the same time. They're both in Squad Betty.
Yep.
So they bounce stuff off of each other all the time. So I know Jessie left, corporate law.
Why would you leave such a high-paying career field?
Well, first of all, I technically wasn't in corporate law. Like what I was in, I was working at a nonprofit, but it's like it was like a big nonprofit. So I was originally, let's go back. Before I was at that nonprofit, I worked for Bloomberg Law. So I was reporting on criminal justice issues for a legal audience. So it was like the legal news branch of Bloomberg News. And from there, like this had been my dream job for so long. And after about like 2.5 years, like 2.5 years, I was like, this isn't hitting the same anymore. Like, why is this not lighting me up? And, like to put it simply is that it wasn't hitting the things I was best at and that I enjoyed at the same time. Like it was hitting some of them, but not all of them. And so me at the time, not really knowing what else to do, I was like, well, clearly it just means that I want to be part of the change. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to go and I'm going to get a job. Like I've got a great network. I'm going to utilize my network, land a job at a nonprofit. And now I'm going to go do this job. I knew within a month that the job was not a good fit. And I ignored everything that told me that, because who quits a job after a month? Like, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Plus, like, I know now I'm like amongst friends who like get it. And I've since, like, I've even had clients where, like, I've had them quit on their first day. Like, they came back and they were like, that was terrible. And I'm like, quit, don't go back, who cares? And they're like, I can do that? I'm like, you can do that, literally.
Yeah, so we talked about that in the bonus thing. I want to
Yeah.
work, for like 90 days, get the bonus and then quit.
And then
right?
quit,
Like,
yeah.
unless-
$2,000 bonus.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
$2,500, unless I absolutely love it, but I'm going to quit.
I've had several jobs I quit on the first day because I didn't like the fucking company.
Sick.
I remember Circuit City. I worked there for one day. This would have been like, I don't know, 97, 98. And they
I
said,
seem to think I remember that.
they go, if people don't want your help, they're looking to steal shit. And I go, I don't want anybody's help. Fuck you. And I walked out.
Yeah.
I seem
So,
to think
like,
I came there to like buy CDs and then like you left, never came back.
Yeah, basically, yes.
yeah, I've had people quit like on the first day. Like, now I'm like, absolutely do it. Don't waste a moment. But at the time it was like, who does that? I'm in, like, I'm making really good money for this sector, like for nonprofit work. And I'm at this prestigious place, but at the end of the day, it wasn't like, I wasn't good at the job because it didn't play on my natural abilities or my skills or my interests. So I knew it was like, I wanted to give it a chance. Like, oh, I just need to be more proactive. Or I just need to do this. I need to do that. And really, at the end of the day, it just wasn't a good fit. And it was also hard because I loved everybody I worked with. I loved the organization. I loved my boss. Like, I still like have nothing but like absolute love in my heart for everybody there. But trust me, when I say I got fired, it's because I was bad at the job. Like, I deserved to be fired, and I would have fired me. And really, I look at it as having manifested that opportunity because I was just too chicken shit to do it myself. I knew I had needed to go. I knew that, like, really, I was just scared because I knew that the problem wasn't me. The problem was traditional employment, that I just was not somebody who was cut out to have a boss. I wasn't somebody who was cut out to like sit in an office all day. I wasn't cut out to like do data entry or like take orders or, to do any of that. Like, it just wasn't serving me. And around that time, I had started life coaching. So I had taken on a couple pro bono clients, which I always advise now if people are interested in doing some kind of coaching or some kind of online services based business. I'm always like, try it out for free at first, because you don't want to wind up in another situation where, oh, you know what, let me go like pay for yoga teacher training and do 800 hours just to find out I hate being a yoga teacher. Like, no, you have to come up with your own version of like internships as an adult. So for me, it was like, let me take on a couple free clients and see how I enjoy this. And that like lit me up like nothing else did. And I think that, if I were like 10 years younger today, I think that this is the path I would have pursued. Like, I don't think I would have like done the whole law school thing. But like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, being a life coach was like the butt of a joke, right? Like, that was like not a real thing. So me being like, no, I think I want to do this. I just need to find out in what way I want to coach people because I'm not certified. So I had to say, okay, well then what do I have to teach people? And the thing I was able to do was get jobs without having to apply for them. Like, I just had figured out, being an introvert, how to come up with a system to network with people, like get the right people into my network and just meet enough people where I would eventually get an interview. I would essentially be like pre-interviewed before any job listing was out there. And so I had basically done that like twice. And so I had been teaching my friends to do it. So I said, well, fuck it, I'll just be a job hunt coach. And that's what I'll do. I'll help people get clear on what they need in their careers, how to find that, and how to network their way there. And I was doing that for the first like 8 to 9 months of that, of like being fired. I actually got fired a week after investing in my first business coach, which I just took as a sign. I was like, okay, that's like God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, just pushing me out of the nest, being like, go for it. You're on the right path. Like, just put everything into it. So after about 8 to 9 months, the pandemic hit. I realized, oh, nobody's going to be hiring jobs for a little while now. But thankfully, I just spent 8 to 9 months figuring out how to start a business and making all the mistakes that there are in doing so. So now I'm going to teach people how to start online businesses, since everyone's going to be getting fired. So that's what I did. I taught people how to start online businesses. Eventually I scaled. Now I'm like a business consultant, a money mindset coach, and that's what I do.
Well, and I think all the business owners here, the three of you, all experienced that, because we opened our business June of 19. So 9-10 months in, shut down. Can't do anything. Nicole was open before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, 1 whole month.
Yeah, and mind you, that was right after a total flood in your first location.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and shut down, not able to do anything. So we all kind of had to pivot at that point and say, okay, this is what we can do. I mean, I kept working because I work at home anyways. I mean, I've worked at home for a decade. I know Mike kept working because he could work at home. Nick got fired.
It's a fact.
3, 4, 5 of the 6 of us here have been fired. I think my favorite firing out of all of us is her by email. Fired by email after a stroke.
Ugh.
So
Not
I mean,
bad.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's not,
And the worst part about that is that I had actually worked at that company during my chemo as well, and probably worked a lot of shifts that I should not have worked, and felt that dedication to like be there for my employer and work hours that I, probably shouldn't have, and put that job first. And you got to be there for your company, and bullshit.
and they'll reward you.
And they reward you, and it'll matter in the end. And then you get sick with another illness, and then while you're going through rehab and trying to figure out how to navigate again, you get an email one day that you've been fired. A fucking email.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. So I mean, even right now, Michaela, we was talking to her the other day about different hours, and she's feeling really bad because she has been working every weekend, and now she thinks she wants to have, she's a high schooler, but works every weekend. And she's asked me if she could start having every other Sunday off, and she started backpedaling and feeling bad about it, and saying, well, I know that you need me here, but I really want some time off. I said, like, Michaela, if I teach you anything, it's, I want you to live your life. You should never, ever allow a job to make you feel like you can't have time off. At the end of the day, I'm the business owner. It's my problem if I don't have staff there. It's not your problem. And if any job ever makes you feel like, somehow you're not allowed to take a day off, quit.
Yeah,
And
I
she goes,
quit-
what do
I
you
quit my
mean?
job.
She goes, what do you mean? I'm like, Michaela, at the end of the day, I got fired in an email after having a stroke. Do you think that all that time and hours I gave them mattered at the end, or do you think they just moved on?
Yeah, that's something, ironically, that was something I was talking about with my employee today too. And it's like, no job is worth it. Like, they will replace you before your body is cold if you
Oh,
were
yeah.
to die. Do not kill yourself for a job. And my teen high schooler came in today and they were talking about how they have 3 tests tomorrow. And I was like, look, dude, do you need to go home and study? And they were like, well, I mean, kind of, but my parents said, like, I have a job and it's my responsibility. And I was like, no. Your job as a teen right now is to worry about school and to have a life and to do that. This is my problem. I was like, if you need to go home and study, like, that is a priority. That is way more important than dusting shelves at my store. Like, the store will still be here. I will survive. Go. So they ended up working like half a shift. He's like, well, I'm here already. I'll work for a little while. I was like, okay. I was like, never feel like you can't tell me that you can't work. And I have a employee who, she's a newer mom. Her daughter, I think, is just over a year. And so with childcare issues and COVID and everything else, like, she's had to not come to work a couple of times. And she always is like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no. This is my responsibility. This is my baby. Your family is priority number 1 for you. Do not ever feel bad. I was like, if you're just telling me this just to fuck with me, to be like, I don't want to work, you wouldn't be working for me anyways, because I wouldn't hire somebody who was that kind of a person. I was like, you are taking care of yourself. You're taking care of your family. We'll make it work. It's not this, like, nobody is ever going to work as hard for my business as I'm going to. And any boss who expects an employee to work as hard for their business when it's not their business is not somebody you should work for.
Oh yeah, there's a great TikToker who is a communist business owner. She's like
She's the one out in California.
Yeah, she's
Love her.
amazing. She's so great. You guys need to reach out to her and have her on. She's awesome. And she talks about how, like, I watched this video where she was like, you know, I don't understand people who say like my employees don't work as hard as me, because then like that's a hiring problem. She was like, so she basically will ask them and be like, oh wow, well like my employees do, like how are you finding these people, like how are you screening them to like work, because she shares her profits with everybody makes the same salary. And I think that's so fantastic and interesting, but I think that that's absolutely true. Like like I've had, you know, virtual assistants be like, my kid is sick and it's gonna take me a bit because I have to put him down, like get him to sleep after he's done vomiting. And I'm like, no, you're taking the day off. Like, absolutely not. There's nothing that's so important for me that like you need to put your life on hold. And I think that's like, yeah, that's been the huge paradigm shift I'm seeing with a lot of managers now, like a lot of, you know, younger managers, younger business owners, we're like bringing a lot of that into.
Well, yeah, I mean, Gen X and millennials, like we all did that. We all got fucked by that too, because we all put in our time, we all put our nose to the ground. And as soon as something happens, we're the first to go. And they were like, bye. And I'm like, why did I just sacrifice my whole life for you? And you just were like, firing me via email. Like, what the hell was that? So now that we all are in the positions to be managers or owning our own business and hiring people, we're like, yeah, no, I want to do things differently than how they've always been done.
Well, and we have actually a few examples. I mean, when I worked at the cemetery, I busted my butt, worked every hour possible. And unfortunately, being at the cemetery, if somebody died in the middle of the night, you know, they have to wake up in the middle of the night and handle those things, and worked a lot of hours. Well, the company that owned that business ended up going through bankruptcy, and their new company was taking over. When the new company came over, they took us out to dinner and they promised us the world. And if you stick around, you're gonna have this, this, and this. I went months without getting paid. And I don't know why the heck I continue to do that, except for just blindly believing somebody. And then the new company comes over and guess what? You're commission only. And I'm like, great, that was awesome. Glad we stuck around for that one.
Yeah, that led to bankruptcy.
Yeah, that led to our own bankruptcy. So I mean, even right now with David and I hiring, because we need to hire more staff. We've got a few staff members that are going to be going on with their own lives pretty soon. And even if they weren't, we're busy enough that we need a few more staff members. But when I've been interviewing and talking to them, you know, I tell them like my job is only as good as the staff behind me, and I can't do this all on my own. And nobody, like what Jessie said, nobody's going to work as hard as I do. I clocked it one time and I work way too many hours that I don't like clocked my time because it's just depressing. But if I don't have good staff behind me, my business is nothing. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's my business. So if you need time off, take your time off.
Well, and because I want to hear Mike here. So Nicole said something earlier that was, if you drop dead, they'll have that job replaced before your obituary hits the paper. So Mike and I did an intervention a week ago. Mike, what did you say to him?
Almost the same exact thing. I said, you could die and they would not give a rat's ass. He's like, no, my coworkers really care. I'm like, it's not about your coworkers. It's about the company itself. The company itself does not care about you.
Well, and I mean, I went through that when I was sick. So my direct upline cared. People that I used to work for cared. But I mean, if I went to the CEO of my company, she doesn't know I exist. I mean, you know, we have now with the merger, 68,000 employees. I'm just a number. And that's fine. But, you know, I keep doing it because I make good money. I work from home. And I'm able to, you know, help support what my wife is doing, which, you know, for the first couple of years we were open was a necessity. Now, it may not be a necessity in the next 2 years, but, you know, up until this point, I'm the one making all the money. She's the one making all the sacrifices. I have a feeling in the next 2 years, I'll be the one making all the sacrifices and she'll be making all the money. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm happy to be a trophy husband. With that,
Mine is also looking forward to that day. He's like, girl, get it. I'm fine to be the stay-at-home husband. Because he's also paying the bills right now for us. And that was something when we were looking at me opening the store that we had to really sit down and be like, okay, is this something that we can do? And I was working a great job. I was working in banking. And what we did was for like the 9 months before we opened, I took my paycheck that I got at my job and I put it right into the business. I was like, okay, let's see if we can do this for 9 months first before I cut the ties and I leave banking. And so that's how like I bootstrapped the business, was by using my paycheck from my bank job to be like, all right, straight into the business. And now I'm at the point where like I could be paying myself, but I hire staff instead. So that way I can, in theory, have some time off. Haven't actually taken, I took a week off earlier this month, but
Yeah.
Maybe someday I'll pay myself.
A friend of mine, well, not even a friend, my cousin on Facebook posted, he said, I pride myself on being a hardworking man and going to work every day and supporting my wife, and so she doesn't have to work longer in her job. And I was like, I don't see how that makes you a man. Like, dude, I'm ready to be the trophy. Like David said, I commented, I said, dude, I'm looking for a sugar mama all day. I was like, no matter what I do in life, I'm going to be supportive. Right. So like,
yeah,
when I retired, granted, all I did was sit at home and drink. So we have proof that I actually won't, because I've worked hard enough to where it's like, I told my wife, I will hire a maid and she just will not get a maid. Right. And I'm like, why? We have the funds, right? I don't want to clean.
Yep.
She says she has no problem cleaning, but she bitches about cleaning all the time. And I'm like, we literally can get somebody to clean. It's a job both of us don't actually want to do. And I'm okay with admitting that, but she's so old school where, well, nope, you got to clean your own house. Otherwise,
so we had on a former player of mine who charges $20 to clean a house. And you and I were both like, yep, sign it up. Let's go.
Deal. Right. Like my pocketbook was wide open.
I will happily support another small business and hire that stuff out. That is not my jam. I will pay a fair wage and pay somebody to clean my house for me every day of the week.
Fair wage. I was going with $20.
She said $20. She goes, my aunt pays me $20 to clean her house. I'm like, deal, let's go.
That is definitely not a fair wage for my house, because my house is way too messy for that.
Mine either.
But I mean, I say, and I've learned over time, like there's things I don't want to do and I shouldn't have to do them. I mean, right. Like I think as society, people just think, hey, you have to do that. And it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that build businesses for so many things. Like, again, can we all change our own brakes? In theory, yes, we could all learn how to do it. We could all do it. Can I change a motor? I'm the first to admit, like I'll change my own brakes because I'm not going to go pay $700, but like to do a motor swap, I just either go get rid of the car or buy a new one. Like I don't have the want to learn it, but my brother, no, let me just go ahead and take care of that real quick and save you a bunch of money. And I'm like, great, here you go. Like he'll do it, but give the kid, how to buy a house. No, he rents for me.
Of course he does.
It's like, he doesn't have that want to go do that type of a thing. He'd rather, hey, nope, when my garbage disposal goes out, I want to call you and be a dick. And he's probably the only person that will call me at like, we'll go out to beers, right? Mm-hmm. And he'll be like, hey, I don't know if now is a good time, but I need $100 for garbage disposal. I'm like, cool, man, I'm $40 deep in drinks real quick, and now you're going to drop this on me. Great budgeting.
Well, and looking at the women we have on this episode, so they basically looked at what they were doing and said, you know what? I just don't want to work for somebody.
Yeah.
I just want to do my own thing. I know that was a big deal with my wife. She got sick of saying, hey, I need to go to the doctor at 2:00 on Tuesday, and having a job go, yeah, fuck you, do that on your own time. Yeah. But again, that is your own time.
Not only that, remember the time I had to have a surgery one time right before Christmas. That's when they scheduled it. That's when they needed to have it done. It's not ideal, but I mean, it kind of worked. They didn't even believe me that that's what I really needed to have done. And they wanted doctor's proof. I'm like, well, first of all, you're not supposed to ask for that. Second of all, if I have time off, give me my damn time off.
Yeah.
But yes, I really did need a surgery, and no, you shouldn't give me time or problems for that.
Well, that's one of the things I've always been adamant about. So I always hoard my time off. I have around 400 hours. I max out at 456. If I take time, don't bother me. It's not it's not going to go your way. I remember taking a day off because we had a scrimmage in Sparta and somebody called me about an issue. And I literally called my boss and screamed at her going, I'm not working today. I'm on a fucking field. I'm coaching a game. Leave me the hell alone. And I never heard another word about it.
And that, I mean, me, you know, I don't know. I'm so used to just constantly being on the phone. So a phone call, and, you know, you're more bothered by, I mean, you know, when I went out of the country or when I go out, you know, I try to set somebody else up, but I still get hit with, hey, because it's the nature of the beast. It's my money paying it to go out. Right. But I remember when I was younger, Courtney and I were dating, and, you know, I'd have a job for a week, a month, whatever it was. And it was like, hey, I need a week off so I can go be a youth, you know, a youth leader real quick at a campground. Yeah, no, you just started, you don't get time off. No, I wasn't asking. I was telling you, like, you can, well, you can quit right now if that's what it takes. Like, I'm letting you know I will not be here for that time. Like, I gave you plenty enough advance notice. I did this, like, I didn't ask you, right? I told you, and this is my time.
What was your demand with the job you currently have?
That I get to wear sandals every day and that I get unlimited time off.
Now, do you take advantage of unlimited time off?
No.
But do they get to say no?
No.
Because if they said, no, Nick, you can't have tomorrow off, what would you say?
Bye.
Yep.
Right? Like,
That's like that. I was literally going to bring that up, is that like you're seeing that a lot more in a lot of companies, like more forward thinking ones, because they realize like you don't need to cap people's time off. Most people are going to like maybe go on like one vacation a year. Like people, like, first of all, Americans already overwork themselves generally. Like we just all do it. We're just like living in that, like in this, you know, capitalistic hologram. It's like, and, you know, I'm one of those people where like, I do dream of labor. I love working. So it's hard for me. Like if I'm taking time off, like, first of all, I already am struggling, like being away from my job because I love doing it. But like most people, like if you have an unlimited leave policy, people are going to be chill about it. Like they're going to be respectful. It means that when they're on the clock, they're going to work more efficiently and more productively.
yeah. And, you know, I agree. You know, we had to sit down, we had a meeting and, you know, now technically I'm a salaried position, and they were sitting there and they're like, hey, because, you know, we have young kids, and, you know, the one girl happens to just, hey, I'm taking Monday off just randomly, and I'm going to get my nails done and my hair done on Thursday. Which is fine. She can go do whatever she wants, but like, she'll just like leave in the middle of the day. And it's like, so they're like, hey, all right, we technically work for this company and they have, you know, a 1 week off policy and you have to give 2 weeks notice for your stuff and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, unless you've negotiated something beforehand. So I just like laughed. And I was,
like, I know this story already.
They're like, what? And I was like, they're like, what did you negotiate? And I was like, doesn't matter, right? Like I'll talk to the owner and we'll talk. And he's like, they're like, well, I was like, forget it. Once I say something, I was like, so I told him, I said, look, I negotiated I wear sandals and then I get unlimited time off. They're like, well, that means you can go away for 6 months. I was like, in theory, that does mean I can go away for 6 months.
But are you going to?
Right. And I was like, I said, look, you know, I pre-planned because I used to have 6 weeks off or whatever. Yes, when I go to Europe, I'm not going for a week. I'm not going for 2 weeks, right? I will probably be gone for an entire month. Like, I'm not lying about that. Like, and I also will be taking my trip to nationals, wherever the heck it is, probably Las Vegas. I was like, I will have that week off. That's probably all I'll take, right? I was like, if my kid's sick, I'll probably go get her and come back because that's what I do now, right? I was like, you guys see it? Hey, oh, yep, let me rearrange my schedule real quick. I got to go pick up my kid, drop her off here, and then I'll be right back. And so I'm gone for 23 minutes. But I also am the first person to wake up at 6 a.m, start sending my emails out, doing whatever. And then, you know, we've been on calls now. You know, I'm working at 8 o'clock at night. And I was like, look, my time over period, like you're getting 15 hours a day out of me. In theory, I'm on call 24/7. So in the back of my mind, I probably can't get the perfect night's sleep because I know that phone will ring. And yeah, that's worth me having unlimited time off because there's going to be a day I'm going to be stressed. Yeah, no, I'm just not doing it. Like I should call in tomorrow, but I'm drinking right now, de-stressing. I've had one of the top 10 worst days I've had in a year.
So I'm in the hospital for a week.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my best to die.
Yeah.
And I don't die. I get home on Saturday. On Monday, I log into work and I'm working and we have a meeting and I log into the meeting and one of the guys goes, "Weren't you just in the hospital?" "Yeah, I was in the hospital." "Why the hell are you on?" And my boss pipes in and goes, "I told him to take the day off, but he wouldn't do it."
Right.
I work from home. I'm going to be sitting here anyways. I might as well log in and do some work. I don't want to use an extra day of PTO.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was said to me was, well, you know, you don't come into the office. And I said, you think me talking to the cops, whether I'm in the office or in my own house, really gives a freaking
Yeah.
shit? Like, doesn't matter where I make my stupid phone call. I was like, so if I want to yell, scream, and holler while I'm in my own house, it's a heck of a lot better than being here, right? Like,
It probably is because they don't want to hear what you have to yell, scream, and howl.
oh my gosh.
Well, and just because all of us are saying that we didn't want to work for companies that was going to limit the amount of time that we could have off, doesn't mean that we're not going to work. All three of us that have businesses, and you guys as well, or are willing to work. We just want to be treated for the work that we're doing and also be able to still have a life in the end too.
You want to be treated like an adult.
Yeah, I mean, even right now, when we have staff members that say they need a day off, I'm like, that's fine. Just give me enough notice so I can make that happen and, you know, do what you need to do.
Well, we left early on Saturday,
Yeah,
which is the first time you've left early in at least a month.
sometimes you just have to.
At least. We did reviews and Dawn's like, "Hey, we're going to see how they do. I'm leaving." And we went out to dinner with Mike and they had a whole fight about who was paying the bill. And I just sat there happy.
Hey, Bill.
It was not a fight. It was fine.
But, you know, at times you just have to decompress and say, all right, I'm handing this off to somebody else just for a little while and I'll see what happens.
Sure. Now, so Jessie, your business isn't a storefront, right? Like, you don't
Right.
just have like an office for people to come to. What is yours entail customer wise versus these two, who's kind of more storefront aspect? You know, have you ever thought about which one's going to be harder and why you chose not to sell a physical product, let's say?
Well, I mean, I chose this line of work because it was what I naturally was good at, you know, and I think a lot of people tend to undersell like their own skills and their gifts. You know, I say this all the time with people. I'm like, just because it's easy for you and you enjoy it doesn't mean it's easy for everybody else. Okay. And I see this a lot with writers are a great example. Like people have good writing skills because what happens, you go to school like I did for journalism, you become friends with a bunch of writers, y'all work for papers. So it's like your whole network, everybody around you, everybody's good at writing. You're surrounded by great writing. And so you say, well, everybody's good at writing because that's just the network you live in. That doesn't mean that the whole world is good at writing. Trust me. Not everybody has that skill. So you have to like almost take yourself out of that bubble and be like, no, this is actually a skill I can use. And this is something I'm always saying to people is that everybody has something they can do that could be a course or a coaching or services thing online at the most basic. And a lot of times those are people who give advice. So to me, it wasn't a question of, oh, should I like have a physical business, a physical space, or should I, you know, do this like online entrepreneur thing? Like to me, it was just so natural. Like first of all, I've always had like a really wide network of contacts and friends. Like, you know, my fiance makes fun of me for making friends with people on airplanes all the time. Like, and I don't even mean to, I'm not like, I try not to be an annoying person. I think I just have one of those faces where people want to talk to me and then I happily talk to them. And I'm always like, I'm just giving advice. Like people ask me for advice, so I give them advice. And it's just always been that way. I had so many friends who would joke about me being their life coach all the time. And so I was finally like, well, why the fuck not? Like, I'm already doing this for free. Like,
Right.
Would people not pay? Like, I mean, at that point, I'd also done a lot of mentorship programs. And like they were always like college students or interns at my job or whatever. And they were always like, oh my God, no one's ever said it that way, or oh my God, that makes so much sense, or like, wow, I used that information and I landed my first job out of college. Like, I always got such great results for people. So it wasn't really a question, but how it works is essentially everything I do is online. So rather than meeting somebody in an office, I'm meeting them usually over Google Meet. And, I have a policy, everybody gets like a free 20-minute call, especially if they're like in my audience, they just like want a quick pivot. I ask a few questions, I'll give them like some free coaching, because to me, it's about making information accessible. So a lot of what I do is like social media based as well. I put a lot of free content out there. I teach a lot of things because I know that nothing's as good as working with me. Like, I can tell you all the concepts there are, I can give you all the strategies I have, and it's never going to be as good as when you have a coach who's working with you to help you achieve your goals. So there's a saying on like the difference between coaches and therapists bridge your past to your present. Coaches bridge your present to your future. And that's just like, that's my natural gift, is I'm very analytical and strategic. So I see the moves that people need to make. I also like got a great bullshitometer, so I can see the way that people are lying to themselves and telling themselves stories that like aren't real and holding themselves back. And, I do it with a lighthearted nature and don't take anything too seriously. And, that's just how I am. I'm very direct. And so mostly everything I do is based in social media. Instead of doing calls in person, I do them not over Zoom, I do them over Google Meet. But yeah, that's how I do it. Like, everything's just online. If I have like courses, like the way I do group coaching, so I've got like a course, I put all my training in there, so that way people can go learn independently, because I know not everybody learns the same way. And then they come to me and ask questions, because I want them to like get the benefit of that one-to-one feeling, even if they are with a group of people. So that's what I do. It's basically a lot of social media marketing, but in my own way, where I'm just sharing information and genuinely trying to help people. I try not to worry about my bottom line, because when you start worrying about the money aspect is when you start questioning a lot of the stuff that you're doing.
Oh, I fully agree. I'm right in the middle of it right now, because I mean, just the crap I'm constantly dealing with. And, I'm so comfortable with the money that I'm supposed to be making and stuff like that. And it's like, man, is this worth it? But you made a couple good points. So we had Jack on last week, and we talked about, thinking your stuff's not that great because of the people you hang around with, right? He's an artist, and it's horrible to listen to him talk, because you and I see the potential, and it's like, this guy has,
he's a great art. I mean, he came up with Bucks and Brews.
Right. Like, he's got 300,000 followers, a lot. He has so many. And, compared to us with like 10, right? So we don't know this, and, people recognize his stuff. And so, we see the potential in him, but he's like, nah, I'm just gonna, I'm comfortable, but I might dabble. And so, like, when we were off air, like, we started getting him kind of going. Yeah. Let's get going a little bit. And then, you said doing stuff that other people don't want to do and wouldn't do. Like, I'm in real estate. We talked about how I'm constantly answering the phone. Like, when you talked about real estate, and you could say, hey man, you could be a millionaire in months and years, whatever it takes. Oh, I couldn't be a landlord. I don't want to get that 2 a.m. phone call. And my response is always, yes, you do. You really want that 2 a.m. phone call, right? Because that means something's really messed up. Yep. Right? Like, if not, that's a training thing where, hey, don't call me at 2 a.m. for a light bulb, because I'm not going to, answer your phone when something real happens. I'm not going to do this. Like, you want that phone call. To me, like, that's a fire, that's a flood, right? Like, two things, and I'm going to teach you how to take care of it. We talked about it in an episode. I had to walk a lady how to get out of her own house that was filled with black smoke, and I'm like, you need to leave the building. But
but to that point, though, if they're saying that that's something they don't want to do, then to Jesse's point, then find the things that you do want to do and find ways to be really good at them.
Oh, and that's exactly it. Like, I mean, there's the people that don't want to answer the phone calls. It's like, okay, then you have property management, which is me, right? Like, teaming up with people. And so, like, the real estate aspect is like, oh, I only want to go buy houses and find a buyer for it. Great, because I only want to be the buyer, right? Like, and make a crap ton of money. And then, because to them, it's like they're making a crap ton of money. I'm making a crap ton of money on my own, right? Like, I'm doing only the parts of
I
things
get what
want.
you're saying. I feel like what you're saying is like every job, every business comes with some downsides,
Oh,
right? And yeah, everything does. And like that's that. I also try to remind people of that too. There's plenty of shit I don't like to do in my business, mostly like admin stuff, organization, like organizing stuff, admin stuff. I don't enjoy it. Like I don't, it's so funny because it's like the stuff that actually makes me money, like sending out the contracts and sending out people's
Yes.
logins and like doing stuff like that. It's like the thing I never want to do. And it's like, yeah, at first you have to do it. And so I get what you're saying, where it's like, yeah, you do want the 2 a.m. phone call, because if what you really want is to like be in this position, you can't let those little things get in the way, because then you can eventually get to a point where you outsource that out.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, you know, I can hire a virtual assistant to just totally manage my email, you know, but like when it comes to starting out and really taking that initial leap, like it's gotta be something where it's like, if it's like more of it is lighting you up than it's not, then you owe it to yourself to give it a shot.
Right.
Well, Nicole, you're known for being very vocally out there for supporting of LGBTQIA individuals and
I have a
BIPOC
story about
individuals.
that.
And you could have chose to just be the quiet little bookkeeper and just go with the flow of Lowell and just, you know, be that little quiet person putting everything aside. But instead you chose to be that outspoken voice. So yeah, there are times that even your choices are not easy. But I think because you are that voice and you're giving people the ability to feel like they have a connection, that's like you're getting that negative, but you're so positive in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So-
And I think that that's a huge part of why I am the way that I am. If I wanted to stay quiet and I wanted to keep my head down, I would work in banking and make a fuck ton of money. That like the point of me being here is I get to be who I am, and I get to be vocal about the things that are important to me and that matter to me. And I get to do that because my boss lets me do all of those things, because I am my boss. So, you know, it's worth it for me to take the downsides of all of that negative attention that I get and all of the stress of that, because I get to be authentically what matters to me and be vocal about those things. And that's like such a huge draw for me for self-employment, because I'm a chaos goblin. I'm not a well-organized person. Those are not strong suits of mine. I'm a big picture person. I'm like that. Don't get me in the weeds. It's not where that's not where I'm real good at it. And so when you own your own business, there is so much in the weeds detail stuff you have to do and deal with, especially when you're first starting out and you know don't have the resources to hire that stuff out. And like, if it wasn't for the positives of I get to say whatever I want and do whatever I want, I don't know if it would be worth it to deal with all of this stuff, but it ends up, you know, balancing out for me.
Also, people totally underestimate how much your friends and family, like your network, want to help you succeed. You know, like there's you know, I tell a lot of my clients, if you know, who are more at the beginning phases of their businesses, where they'll complain, like maybe they're complaining about their admin work or they're complaining about social media or something, and I say, like, why don't you go find somebody to trade with? Because I guarantee you there's somebody out there, there's a social media manager out there who desperately needs some coaching, or who desperately needs like some kind of healing, right? Like they need like money management. They need something that you offer, and they'd be willing to trade a few hours in exchange for some coaching. And like, even if it's at home, right? Like, you know, this is an example I use a lot of the times, is like, I really hate to clean my floors. I don't know what it is. I just really hate to sweep and mop. It is, and vacuum. Those are my least favorite chores. I would rather walk around with crumbs stuck to my feet. Like, I just don't like it. But I love to cook. So if a friend were to be like, hey, could you, like, would you cook me a couple dinners like for the week ahead of time, and in exchange I'll come clean your floors? I would take that so fast. I would take that trade so fast. I'd be like, hell yeah, come on over, clean my house, and then you'll go back with a bunch of Tupperware. Like, I would do that, no problem, because to me that's like fun. I love to cook. But
Yeah.
Story time.
Story time.
So while we wait for Jessie's video to catch up here, I'm getting a tattoo on Tuesday last week.
Yeah.
And my tattoo artist, Brantley, grew up in Lowell.
Oh,
And we started
Is it-
talking about Lowell. And I said, yeah, I got a friend out there. She opened up a bookstore and she's very accepting of BIPOC and LGBTQ. And he goes, yeah, they just had their first Pride Parade ever out there. That was really cool. And I just started laughing. He goes, the hell's so funny? I said, yeah, the person I'm talking about, she's the one that put on the Pride Parade. And he goes, really? That's awesome. I said, yeah, they fucking hate her out there. But if she has another Pride Parade this year, which I know she will, I know Tuscan that's gonna fucking show up to that shit. And I'm gonna have some rainbow crap on. I don't give a shit.
I went and
we
did a
sure
city
will be.
I went and did a city inspection yesterday, and I'm talking to the tenant or whatever, and we were talking about tenants and stuff like that, and I said, man, it's really nice to get to like actually, because I've been in such a low spot in my mind of I really am thinking so negative of tenants lately, and I didn't used to be that way. I cared about people, and like I started this out because I wanted people to succeed, and like that's why I keep rents low and stuff like that. But like, he's like, man, you literally, because I'm in my hoodie, right, pair of blue jeans, random shoes, and he's like, you look like the most Republican person I know. And I was like, it's funny, I did a video on that. I was like, and he goes, he was talking about his van, and I said, yeah, you should see my my Dodge Ram that has chicken wire for rocker panels. And he's like, how are you not a Republican and a half? And I was like, yeah, I care about people, like in a general sense.
Yeah.
And this is what it is. And it was just funny. He goes, I would have pegged you for a Republican all day, every day. And I was like, yeah, I mean, in a financial world, yes. Like that's what I am.
Well, again, at the end of the day, you and I are both very fiscally conservative,
socially liberal. But it was just funny because like right when he said it, he's like big bearded and all that, and there's like everything that
you check all those boxes.
We did the TikTok thing, and I was like, man, you should watch my TikTok. It was not all the ones, but all right. So I want to talk to Nicole real quick. What was the hardest thing about starting out in your business?
So I think probably the hardest thing for me is like, I grew up poor. I didn't have a lot of money. I did all of the things that I was supposed to do. I went to college. I went into the military. I did all of the smart choices because I was like, I'm never going to put myself in a position where I'm going to be poor again. Like that's not how I'm going to do it. So when I was leaving my very secure, very well-paying, everything I had worked my entire life for a job to go jump into the unknown of retail, like what? Who does that? And I think that for me was probably the hardest part because I was so like terrified that this is not going to go well. And I just had to jump. I just had to go for it. And my whole first year being open, my husband and I had this saying, they were like, you can survive anything for a year. If worse comes to worse and you utterly fail and the business goes under, what's the worst that's going to happen? You just go back. You're still going to be employable. You're only going to be a year out from banking will not change that much. You can still go back and do what you did. And I think that was probably just getting past that mental, like when I was planning the business, there were so many times where I was like, like maybe I'll do this in a couple of years. Maybe like I just kept finding excuses to kind of put it off because it wasn't perfect yet. And I didn't know I was going to succeed for sure. And I eventually just had to just pull the trigger and go for it. And that was hard for me, like personally.
Sure. Dawn, starting out, like what was the hardest part?
I don't know because I had also quickly joined Spring GR, the organization that helps businesses kind of get on their foot and learn a whole bunch of stuff. So I feel like I kind of had a unofficial management team behind me already. But I think the biggest thing was just quickly going, oh shit, now everything falls on me, and trying to figure out how to make all those things happen and not let the business down. But I was also kind of scared I was going to somehow let the family down. But we started small with our original location and, so that we could be conservative in what we were doing. And it was just David and I to begin with. And then we brought on Jenna and then we came here and then there's a bunch of more staff. But I think the biggest thing was just, making sure that, well, going back to like when I started joining Spring GR, they said, what are you scared of? I said, the things I don't know. I've never owned a business. I've done management of different things. I've done auditing of different things. I knew I could handle the books. I knew I could maybe hopefully do the marketing side. I knew I was a people person. I knew I had customer service skills, but I was scared of what I didn't know.
So I think honestly, part of the issues we had here was we still needed you to make money.
Mhm.
So it really fell on me to be at the business when you couldn't be there because you were still doing shift. And you had a lot of people telling you until you quit doing extra things and just focus everything on the business, it's never going to succeed. So, I mean, those early days, I'm working, Mike's coming up and working for free. The two of us are sitting here and you're out doing shift. And really, until you took that leap in probably November, which was like 6 months in.
Right. Well, it goes back to like what Jessie said. My business coach ended up saying, listen, you can't put, half your time in one thing and half your time in the other. If you want your break room therapy to work, you have to just do it. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm scared. And they said, of what? And I said, I still need to be bringing in money for the family. I still need to be doing these things. I'm like, okay, but is shift what you're trying to do? Or is break room what you're trying to do? I'm like, well, break room therapy is what I'm trying to do. Then do it. And then it's like, okay, but how? Yes, Mike.
We'll go with our favorite Parks and Rec character and one of his quotes.
Ron
Don't
Swanson.
half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing.
Right.
True story.
Well, and so Nicole and I know a person, Christina, she owns a company called Zeal. And I went to, right before the pandemic, went to a FemPro girls networking event. And one line that Christina said has stuck with me ever since, and I've used it in other conversations, is that every time you say yes to something else, you're saying no to something else as well. So make sure that you're good with your yeses and your nos. So yes, I was saying yes to shift, but in the end time, I was technically saying no to the business. And until I realized, okay, I'm just going to say yes to this, and we're going to just jump in and we're going to make it the work the best we can. And the nice thing is with shift is that if I had to, we could have, just gone back that way if necessary. But once we just said, okay, I'm all in, and we took on all of the responsibility of break room therapy and everything that came with it, that's really when it started to really grow.
Well, and you bring up a great point there. So I'm at a coaching clinic one time and I'm listening to Bill Edwards, who's a Hall of Fame coach from Hofstra. And he goes, listen, every time you go to take away one thing, you're giving up something else. And you have to be okay with that. So if you're playing for this hitter to slap, you already know you're giving up the 5-6 hole. And if they hit it there, you're screwed. And it was the first time I ever had clarity going, okay, it's okay if I decide to play for this and they beat me with that. I can live with it because I'm making a calculated decision knowing that, I've done enough research to say, hey, I want to stop this. And if they do that, it's all right. And that really was what you did with your job.
Well, it's I don't know. One of the big things that holds me down from going full time in mine, because, I'm a lot like the three of you. The only difference is I have the young kid, right? But like, I am at the point of, I don't know part-time. Part-time to me is 10 hours, right? Like, let's say, because I'm so used to working, 12-hour days at Gentex, turning around and working 7 hours at night. Back then, my wife and I, we would put in 110 hours a week a piece, right? And it was just, so grinding is always been my thing. So now, I don't know, to not have that comfort and give it up, it's very hard for me, right? Like, what if? No, you know what? I'm very comfortable. No matter what, I know, again, we talk about it. I know no matter what happens, my kid has a roof over her head. Now it's how much more do I want for her, right? Because, she's still got a long life to live. And, I would feel horrible if I failed and it cost her something, right? Granted, I'd have to live with it. She'd have to live with it, but it's not fair, right? She didn't choose for me to make that bad decision.
Right. But no one decision is irreversible. Like if you jump into your business and it doesn't work out, you're still hireable. You're not stuck there. That was because I had that exact same thought. I mean, I don't have kids, so I'm incredibly privileged in that if anybody was going to starve, it was just going to be me and my husband. Like, that's fine. I accepted that. So I obviously had like a whole level layer to it. But like, if you go into a business and you're like 6 months in and you're like, this isn't working.
Yeah. No, I say then I have to go back to a real job that would be like
It's so hard.
mandatory hours and stuff. Like,
Nick is not for a real job.
not anymore. Like, that's the only reason.
No.
Like, I literally walked in and said exactly what I want, right?
Mhm.
Like, I was very open and honest. Hey, you know what? If I go out and drink on Friday night until 3 a.m., I'm probably not showing up the next day until like 10 a.m. I don't give a shit, right? Like, just, if I go out and celebrate my buddy's birthday on Tuesday and, we close the bar down, I probably won't be until like 9:30. I don't care, right? Like, as long as you make an attempt, right? Like, make sure I schedule everything about it. So
Yeah, but I think so Jessie said you have to figure out what it is that's going to make you happy. I spent
Nothing.
the majority of the time that I've been with David, so 22 years now, trying my absolutely positively best to avoid weekend jobs. Enjoy those Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, that way, or getting off work as soon as I could to help Caitlin with her softball teams or, whatever.
Great job, by the way.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. So, I mean, I spent half of my, adulthood life trying to avoid weekend jobs and trying to do this and trying to do that. And I really wasn't fully to where I am now with happiness. And yet I have a weekend only business. We're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I don't know. And I also, I have lupus, I have fibromyalgia, I have IC, I'm in remission for cancer, and I shouldn't be having a physical job. And I had a lot of desk jobs, but honestly, the more physical I am now, probably the better off I feel. So I think it's finding what it is that makes you to figure out what it is that you want to do.
Well, not only that, but we're old people now, and we would like to not be in the cold all the time.
Yeah, one day.
And your job is busiest in the
In the
winter.
winter. So I mean, I think that sometimes you just go, okay, that's not what I want, but what do you want? And can you still make those sacrifices later on? Because I don't like the fact that I work on the weekends, but at the same time, I love the business that I've grown. So
yeah. Well, that's my problem is I know what I want. My wife just doesn't share that same want. So
okay, you can't have tacos every night.
no, I can. Like, there's not a single thing that says I can't. There's no written rule, right? I got married and she said she liked tacos back. Like, this stuff, I'm allowed to have tacos every single night. She asked me all the time, what do you want, tacos? Like, my answer is just always tacos, right? There's never a
Well, what
time
kind of
in my-
tacos are you eating every night? That's my real question.
Doesn't-
Like, are we talking about the same kind of taco? Because that's gonna get old.
I mean, I will change them up, but like, if it's the same taco, I'm not going to be upset.
You just want something thrown in a tortilla. It
I'm gonna
doesn't matter.
send you. I'm gonna send you a link to a good taco cookbook, and it's got a bajillion different kind of taco recipes.
You
Okay.
like to cook, okay? Like,
Yeah.
you like. Don't throw that on me.
Nick just wants to show up and there's a taco in front.
No, I'm saying to get some ideas, like, because
No,
they got like some crazy ideas in there, and like, that's all I'm saying is like broaden the perspectives, and then you
Oh.
guys can find the compromise in what kind of tacos.
Oh, we already know. Like, say we
Literally anything in a
say
tortilla. for you.
barbecue chicken tacos with bread and butter pickles on top. Type.
I took the entire team out to breakfast once at Old Country Buffet.
Yeah.
And somebody was happier than a pig in slop
Yeah,
because they could have a shitty Old Country Buffet taco.
that's a fact.
And you had multiple.
That was my favorite morning.
It
That's
sounds
not
like you
even
really
really a
just need an ongoing supply of tortillas, and like it doesn't really matter what's in them.
That's a factual
Literally,
statement.
yeah.
Don't worry, Nick,
Everything
I'm like you.
Everything tastes better in a tortilla. So, what did I have done? Oh, I think I had my tooth pulled and it hurt, and was only supposed to have soft foods. So for 3 days, I went to Taco Bell for breakfast and had a breakfast taco. Went to Taco Bell for lunch, had a breakfast taco. Went to Taco Bell for dinner, had tacos, like, or a bean burrito or something. Like, and I did it for like 3 days, and I just felt like the happiest person I've ever been. All dollar menu stuff. I spent $6 for a day, and I'm just like, I went home to my wife and I'm just smiling, and I was like, man, I had tacos 3 times today.
This
Right?
seems like an easy solution. Just let her make whatever she wants, and you just keep tortillas on hand and eat it in a
Correct.
tortilla.
Whatever she makes, put it in a tortilla
Yeah.
and shut your face.
And you'll be happy.
You ever tried eating fettuccine alfredo in a tortilla?
You totally.
I bet it would be amazing.
It's not.
And we digress.
So
Just
I
have the
remember
garlic bread.
I remember the last time we talked about food on Bucks and Brews.
Yeah.
Nick goes, I would just be so happy with a banquet Salisbury steak.
Oh man. Yeah.
And I sent Courtney a message and goes, your husband would be so happy. And she's like, I'm not home and he's not getting that.
Yeah. But no. Now, so Jessie, what was the hardest part of starting out for you?
Not letting results dictate my self-worth. So much of the
Huge.
beginning of running a business is just the willingness to fail forward. It's not a question of if you will fail, it is when you will fail and in what way. And for me, especially if you have a business where you feel like you are the product, which that's an easy thing for coaches. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Like for coaches or people who provide services, I see this with a lot of lawyers as well. There's this tendency to conflate your identity with the business that you have. So something like, for example, like if I like disagreed with my partner about things, like he wanted to talk about like my plan or my stability or my income, I would get really defensive. I would get so defensive. And one of the small things I had to do was I had to stop referring to it as my business and start calling it my job. Because when I said my job, it didn't feel as charged. It felt like it was just something I did. It wasn't who I was. And, you know, it's really easy to like tell yourself like, I'm bad at this because I'm not making money, or I'm bad at this because not everybody understands it, or I'm bad at this because my clients aren't getting the same results, like, or not all my clients are all getting the same results. Like, it's so easy to let like the ways in which you're failing become like a reflection on your deservingness. And what I say now, what I realize now is that it's all in your head. Your ability to succeed is all based on what you believe is possible for yourself. And that's not something that you can necessarily dig deep in and find. It's honestly just, first of all, part of it is experience. It's just trial and error. It is failing and then finding your way through the failure to find success again, and constantly like picking yourself back up and finding those solutions and moving ahead. And the other part of it is honestly like just being exposed to other people who are succeeding and like having a community around you. So I didn't have like other entrepreneur friends for probably the first year I was in business almost. It wasn't like a total year. It was like maybe the first like 10 months. And I constantly just like questioned myself and doubted myself. And I felt like a loser. And I felt like I couldn't get things off the ground. It was my fault. I felt like I was letting everybody down. And really, it's because I was measuring myself against people in traditional employment, and people in traditional employment don't get it. They don't get it because yeah.
They don't have the high month. They don't have the low month, right?
Mm-mm.
Like they have that traditional everyday
Exactly.
guaranteed paycheck.
Right. So like when you come to somebody who's traditionally employed and you're like, oh my God, it's already like 2 weeks into the month and I haven't made any sales or nothing's going right. Like I'm worried, I'm not seeing results, I'm not seeing traction. Like you go to somebody who's like traditionally minded or like always had a 9 to 5 and they'll be like, oh my God, how are you going to pay rent? Oh my God, are you worried? But like, how are you? Do you need help? Like, do you need me to loan you money? And you're like, oh my God, no, that's not why I came here. I was just venting. And when you've got entrepreneur friends, like you go to them and they'll be like, well, you can still got 2 weeks. Come on, like anything can happen in 2 weeks. You can like lock that down in a day. Like it happens. What have you been doing? How have you been? Like, what's been your thought process? What have you been doing? Like, let me go look at your social media real quick. Let me see what you're like. That's the big difference, is that you don't get met with that anxiety that just like makes you spiral. Instead, you get met with people who get it. And, you know, you do it for them too. hopefully you're not ever spiraling at the same time, but even if you are, you're normally in a place where you can kind of talk each other off the ledge and find some kind of solution and some kind of support. But like, honestly, like the support makes all the difference. And yeah, it's just a process. It's just a process of learning not to let any of the results, good or bad, make it mean that you are inherently deserving or not of the life that you want.
And life is not about every single thing that every single person likes. I support Nicole left, right, and backwards, but I don't read books, which probably just makes her cringe underneath her skin because she loves books. But I support her and I'm there for her. We had a customer in at the business on Saturday or Sunday. We went to try and give the frequent membership card, and the person point blank said they didn't want it. They weren't going to come back, and it just wasn't what they were looking for. Now, I didn't see this person on their way out. So when this was being told to me, the first thing I was like, well, how did we fail? What did we do wrong? What could we have done better? But rather than just taking that, I went and called the customer and I said, hey, you know, I've been told that you didn't want the frequent membership card and, you know, this wasn't what you were looking for. What were you expecting versus what you got? How can I learn from this? What could we do different? What could we have done better? And they were like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I don't know how I can fix that if if I don't know what I could have done differently. And they said, I don't know what I expected versus what I got. It's just, it's not for us. I said, well, admittedly, this isn't for everybody either. My husband supports me. My husband's there for me. My husband sees a lot of customers that have enjoyed this, but this is not for him. So just because you're not succeeding in somebody else's eyes doesn't mean that your success isn't there for somebody else. I'm never going to buy a book for myself or Nicole, but I'll always buy a book for somebody else that somebody else wants, because it's my way of supporting her for somebody else of what they need. So you can't gauge your, like what Jessie was saying, you can't gauge it on whether or not somebody else is seeing your worth.
Well, I know for me, I don't ever want to do this, but I've said it before. If you give me a rock band guitar, I'll beat the shit out of that thing because I want to be Jimi Hendrix. So you hand me that thing, I'll beat the shit out of it. But I see so many people come through the door, working through issues or looking to have a good time. And when they walk out of here, they're either absolutely gassed or all smiles. And that's, again, I'm an empathetic person. That's what I live for. I want to see people happy at the end of the day. And we see that a lot. I mean, Nicole said something earlier that, triggered a memory in my mind. We're almost 4 years into this. We'll start year 4 in June. And my mother will call and it still sounds like the same thing of, is the shit failing yet?
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
But it's not failing. I mean, we're growing every month.
No, and you get it. And I think every business, right? You're going to constantly have people that think you won't succeed, right? Again, when I first started, right, and I told somebody about my first house, they're like, well, the market, and this was 2010. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's going to be another recession real quick. And that never bothered me. I didn't do it. In the beginning, I never did it for them. I did it for the somebody to pay my mortgage, right? But I was still intending to pay my mortgage. I just wanted to get my house paid off quicker. And here I am, gosh, I'm 12 years into mine. Mm-hmm. And I still get constant people going, yep. It's gonna. Look at the talk right now. Like, oh, it's gonna change. It's gonna change. Yep, you're right. It will. But again, do you know what my failure looks like now? Like, my failure looks like I have my house paid off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy shit. Do you know what I had when I started? Like, we closed on our first house. I would have lived in my normal house, but a normal person. I had $30 in my bank account, right? Like, I remember signing that check, going, oh. We have $30. We didn't go out to eat. Like that was it. And to look at it now and just go, okay, like if I fail, I'm still failing ahead, right? Mm-hmm. I've learned a shit ton along the way, right? We talk about all the time. My first lease was on a lined piece of paper.
It's one of my favorite stories.
I had no business being in this business.
Yeah.
I had zero, right? And now, I don't know, I give free advice constantly.
Well, I remember I coached for years before I got a high school job.
Yep.
And I remember, showing up to my first game and they go, all right, take us around the field, tell us the ground rules. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, ground rules? They're the same rules everybody else has.
Yeah.
I had no damn idea what they were talking about because I hadn't done that before.
Yep.
And failure again is the best teacher.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's the ones that learn from their failures that make them successful, right? And I have failed. I will fail. I continue to fail. You know, when I stop failing, I'll probably be what's called retired.
Yeah.
And that's a failure. So but all right, now Dawn, we'll start with you. What is the hardest part about your growing your business now?
Right now, I feel like I've grown a beast that I don't know how to control because sometimes we are so busy that I don't know how to keep up. And
Keep up with what specifically?
inventory.
Okay, so you're having inventory issues,
Yeah.
but I mean, you're not having employee issues for to keeping enough staff on.
Well, I need employees, and I think we have that finally figured out with some interviews that we've had. But we've had some interviews where people just didn't show up, so that was fun.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, but whatever. No, I think right now it's grown to the point that I wanted to just it continue to grow, but also be to keep up with it because literally everything is still on me. I will think I have just amount of glass for the weekend and we're just okay. And then we get to Saturday night and I'm like, oh, okay, girl. So you know how I tell you that you always have to build a package after you're done cleaning your room? From the rest of the shift, that's just out the window because there's not any glass to build stuff with.
Okay.
And then it's back on me again.
Well, we're going
So
into
I constantly feel like I'm going to fail them.
we're going into our third Valentine's Day, and Valentine's Day for whatever reason is our weekend.
Yeah, I've already started stocking stuff for that weekend.
Yeah, but usually we get to
And then-
almost all the way through Saturday, and we're like, yeah, we might need to scale back on some Sunday appointments because we're running low on glass.
No, we haven't done that.
We did that the first year.
Right, but not since.
Yeah, we did it last year. We scaled back on the bottles only package
Yeah.
because we ran out of bottles because bars were not open
Yeah.
like they used to be.
Well, that's the thing. So I mean, like right now, some of the things are not even in my control because we're still in a pandemic, which is very much real. And unfortunately, some people are just over it, but that's not how that works. And things just aren't, we haven't had a traditional quote unquote year of being open. And we opened in June of 19 and then, the following year was pandemic. So you really don't have like a good year of numbers, but the restaurants that we're working with, some of them are still pretty busy and some of them are like, ooh, are you going to be okay? So I can't control those outside factors. Or we work with a lot of different thrift stores and some weeks I'll get a lot of glass and then the next week you get 2 boxes. So it's trying to control the things that I can't control, and that's not fun.
Sure. Jessie, what's the hardest part about growing your business currently?
It's respecting my need for rest. So I had gotten COVID in December. I had a rough December. So I got a stomach flu that my fiance brought back from campus. He's a professor. So in grad school, he brought back a stomach flu.
Darn him.
And it hit me worse than it hit him. So it was bad. And then it like turned into IBS for a few days, which I don't even have, but it was just like, that's how much it wrecked my digestive system. Not even a week after healing, I got COVID. And it was, thankfully it was like a very bad cold for me. I have asthma, so it could have easily been a lot worse, but I couldn't work for like a straight month. And I know that the reason that really happened is because I was pushing myself. Like I'm somebody where the last time I was really sick was 3 years ago. So me getting sick like that so often in 1 month, I knew it was because I was pushing myself past my limits. And as I'm growing now, I'm really having to learn to respect my own energy levels. Just because I feel good and I can work doesn't mean I should. And this realization came shortly after. It was like in the midst of my COVID stuff. I was, when my brain was still working before the brain fog set in. I did this activity where I mapped out my year before. I went month to month and I just listed my highs and lows, and they could be anything. So I did could have been like, oh, I made a ton of money, or like, I met this really cool person, or I just felt really good. I was just like, you know, everything felt really fun that month, or I took a vacation, doesn't matter. So highs and lows, no matter what. And I looked for patterns, and I found that I could only sustain success and like feeling good about things for literally 2.5 months to the day. And it was literally that tight of a pattern. So it was 2.5 months of success. And after that, it would be 4 months of like just dog shit, like not making great sales, not having a lot of fun, just really down in the dumps, anxiety, depression, things like that. And I realized it's because when I was feeling good enough to work, I was pushing myself way too much. And so now I know, and that's been my focus for the year, is that I'm not going to even allow myself to get close to that 2.5 months. So now it's like I've been forcing myself to sign off, not like I'm stopped taking calls on, like I would like not take calls, quote unquote, on Monday and Friday, but like I would fit in people here and there. But I really, truly started honoring that, so I could catch up on things in my business. I also went ahead and I went for the entire year, and every 2.5 months, or every 2 months, not even 2.5 months, I just closed down my calendar for calls, because I said, like, I need to build that in now or I'm not going to do it. And so I'm getting to the point now where it's like my focus is sustaining success past that timeline. Because I realized, like, when I got sick, I literally got sick that 2.5 months in to my success, like to my upswing. So that's honestly like when I'm at this level now, where now it's about like making the big bucks and like really like scaling in a big way and like getting the book deal and doing the speaking engagements. Like it's about taking care of myself. And you know, that's probably a leftover habit that's conditioning from, you know, our capitalist society, and from having worked in law and journalism for so long where you're always on call. But I'm having to like relearn how to listen to myself and scale back how much I do.
And if I could jump on that for a second, we are open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but on the days that we're closed, the phone calls still go to my cell phone, because I'm still just conditioned to, I don't want them to miss a phone call, and I want to be there for them, and I want to continue to grow the business. And we have opened up on the off days as well. Well, going into Christmas, we had looked at the schedule on when like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day fell. And it was going to be the Friday, Saturday for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So we would have been open Thursday and Sunday. David and I made the decision that just didn't make any sense. We would just be closed down that whole week and give our staff that time off. Plus, you know, if we're going to sit there and say that the one thing we didn't like about corporate jobs was not getting time off, we need to also take our time off as well. So I get a phone call from would have been customer, but he's not going to be now, and giving me garbage because I was not willing to open up for him during one of those days off. And he said, well, I thought the small businesses need money, and here I am trying to support you, and you're really going to tell me that you won't open up? I said, yes, we are closed that week to give our time, our staff and ourselves time with our family and friends. I'm sorry that we're not opening up for you, but we will be available the next week. You're really going to say no? I said, yes, I really am. And he's like, why? I said, because I need time off as well. Well, I'm trying to give you money. I'm like, dude, this is not going to go your way. Right. We are taking this time off. And if I'm going to sit there and tell you one thing I hated about working at a previous job was not getting time off, then it's okay. Allow yourself to have that time off too. We're going away next week, and I get a phone call earlier this afternoon, and I said to David, I'm like, next week when we're gone, the phone calls are not going to my phone. They're just going to go to voicemail, and people will just survive, because technically when I close on Sunday at 5, the reality is any other business wouldn't be getting my phone call answered until they open at Thursday at 4, if that's their hours. So allow yourself that opportunity to, you know, treat yourself the way that you wanted businesses to treat you as well.
Well, it's, you know, a fat kid story, right? So the person's not going to come here, right? Sure, they'll probably remember you, but like, do you know how many like Chinese restaurants I've gone to? And it's like, we went to go get pedicures besides the buffet. I went to go get pedicures, and it was like family vacation from January 4th to the 12th. I was like, man, it sucks. Like, I wish you would have updated Google, but like, it's not like I'm not going to go back there to get a pedicure, right? Like, I was happy. I was like, man, I wonder like what they're doing. Like my mind starts wandering, and I'm like, how much does a pedicure place make? Do you think they're on a huge vacation? Like, did they just go like, but if I go to a buffet and it's like, oh, we're closed here, and I'm like, oh, whatever, I don't give a shit. Like, have a good time. Like, I'm not gonna not support you because you took time off, right? You were upfront and honest. Like, hey, we're not here.
One of the things that my therapist has told me, while I'm trying to recover from being septic, is 30 minutes every day. I just want you to lay there and shut your eyes and just chill out. So I've been trying to do that every day.
Yeah.
And it does calm my brain down enough that, on the days I do that, I feel I have a little bit more energy the rest of the day. So like today, I laid down for about 45 minutes. I had my eyes closed. I didn't go to sleep or anything. I just laid there. And I knew I needed that because I needed to make it through a 7 o'clock show instead of a 6 o'clock show.
Right.
And, I needed to be fresh as long as I could be.
Yeah. So Nicole, you're the last one on the list. What are you finding to be the hardest parts now that you've been into business for a little bit?
I think probably the hardest part is just my own expectations of what the business should look like and what success should look like. We also haven't had a normal year yet. We opened right February 2020. And so our first year was pandemic. Our second year was still pandemic, and people haven't really known about us, but we were still really, really successful. And there's so many things about my business that if you were to look at it on paper, you go, you should not, like, this doesn't make sense. You should not be a liberal progressive bookstore in a small conservative town and having $160,000 in sales in your second year. Like, that doesn't make sense. And so now it's like, okay, I set these expectations for me for what next is going to look like. And they're just crazy things my brain makes up because I have nothing to base them off of, because I have no normal with which to kind of base things off of. So at Christmas time, Christmas obviously is huge for retail. It's like our biggest time of the year. I put so much pressure on myself and so much stress on myself of what I thought it had to look like, that I didn't take the time to appreciate how amazingly well the season went for us, because it didn't hit these just made up numbers in my head of what I thought we needed to look like. And so I'm finding that that's kind of my struggle going forward, is like, I don't know what normal is supposed to look like. Nobody can tell me what normal is supposed to look like. Nobody can tell me what I'm, because we're all swimming without anything right now. And so just finding that balance and those boundaries on myself. I'm literally the only one who's pushing these expectations on me. It's literally all me. So my therapist is very well paid, and she spends a lot of time telling me, calm the fuck down and get over it. And so I just need to learn to listen to her, because I don't really know what 22 is going to look like for us. I have in my head like goals that I want to hit, which obviously I have sales goals I want to hit, and I want us to continue to grow. But I also have goals of like, what do I personally want to achieve in the business? What do I want to achieve and do that are intangibles, and how do I make those happen while also respecting myself enough to not drive myself crazy?
I mean,
I have to address something you said, because like, I don't even know if you realize you're doing it, where you were saying like, there's no reason I should be making this much money when I'm like this liberal bookstore, like in this conservative town. And like, I teach people that there is an aspect to running a business where you have to use your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can have the best strategy in the world, but like, if it doesn't feel authentic to you, if it doesn't feel good for you, then it doesn't matter how good the strategy is, it's going to flop. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you could easily like make tons of money in your town putting, Make America Great Again t-shirts all over the front, right? Like, you could, but you made a lot more doing something that was authentic to you. And, I call that marriage of like intuition, like with the business know-how that you have, I call it gumption.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, think about like old Hollywood movies where, the main characters, the premise of like all those comedies is like, here's a batshit insane premise.
Mm-hmm.
And then the main character's like, hey, here's a crazy solution. And everyone's like, you can't do that. That's crazy. And then they're like, watch me. And they do it, and everything turns out fine. Like, Some Like It Hot. Oh my God, the mob is coming after us. I know what we need to do. We need to cross-dress as women, join an all-female band, and travel to Florida to escape. Like, that makes no sense, okay? That makes no sense.
That is
But
my
it
business,
works out.
100.
Right, exactly. But like, you have to do it in your own way. It's like,
Yep.
I've known for years, like having a book has been on my manifestation list for years.
Mhm.
And like, was I actively writing the book? Yes. Is it done? No. But it's like, yeah, I was writing it, and like, it's on that, like, it's been something I wanted to do. And like, do I know the basics? Like, yeah, you need like an agent, a proposal, blah, 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 blah. But all I was following was like, hey, maybe you need to start talking about stuff other than just like business on TikTok. Like, maybe you need to just like start voicing some of these opinions from that job hunting business you had a few years ago. Like, maybe you just need to start being vocal and being an advocate. If that's what you want, is to be a thought leader, just be it. And what happened was, like, I landed an agent. I landed, like, an editor approached me. You have to just follow your intuition in the way you lead your business. So I love everything you said, Nicole. And I'm gonna be a new customer from you.
Well, and
for
I'm
you.
working with Davenport University right now on a few of their different programs. Spring Jared suggested that I contact them and see if they could help me. And one of the things that they're helping me with is marketing. I had a Zoom meeting today with the marketing program, and they were like, so what's your marketing strategy? Because we see that you've only been open since June of 19, well, technically January, but you've already got over 5,000 followers and you seem to be busy. I'm like, yeah, I just make shit up as I go if I believe in what I'm posting. I said, I went to one class one time and they told me that your post should not have more than 20 words because you got to grab their attention right away. I said, but the problem is that I feel like the posts that actually get the most attention are the ones where it's me. I'm saying, hey, cancer sucks. And if you're feeling that way, let's come and break some shit and, get it off your chest. So I think being authentically you and believing in what you believe in and who you are, at the end of the day, that's how you're going to sell what you're trying to do, not following quote unquote a script that somebody else came up with. If this is your business and your heart and your passion, sell what you believe in.
And there's always a middle ground there too, right? It's like, we know every February it's going to be Valentine's Day. We know every March people are going to start wanting to talk about spring cleaning. We know every Easter, like every April, late March, early April, there's going to be Easter. Like, we know that there are these, hallmark days and like seasons throughout the year. So you can have that in your mind with your business where you're like, okay, I know that I'm going to have these things coming up. So like, let me just make a note that I'm going to split up the month like this. Like, that's something I do, is I do monthly paid workshops. So for me, it was like this month was all about like goal setting for 2022. February is about like the intersection of love and money. March, I'm taking off to like launch a big thing. And then April, it's like KonMari your business, like get rid of the shit that's not serving you. And then May is, I'm doing a workshop on like money in the mother wound. And then June is going to be a workshop called Daddy Issues, all about like, your father wound and how that affects your money. Like, I know those things. That doesn't mean I need to have that all my content planned out, but just knowing that that's what every month is going to look like puts you so much farther ahead of the curve. And then like the month of, I can say, does this still sound fun? Does this still sound authentic? Is this still something I want to do? Okay, then yes. And then if not, I can change it. But the point is that I've got that basic framework of like, what are going to be the hot topics I'm going to be wanting to talk about then anyway.
Right.
Well, you're all hitting on. Go ahead, Nicole.
I was just saying, I think it's so interesting because I was just at an entrepreneur conference over the weekend, and literally every class and everything that they were telling me was the exact opposite of everything that I've done. And I was like, if I followed this advice, I wouldn't be successful. I was like, does that mean that people can recreate what I did and also be successful? No, probably not. But like, I'm like sitting there listening to this class, and I had wanted to go to it since 2019 before I opened. Pandemic hit, all these things. I didn't get to go before I opened. And I'm so actually very thankful that I didn't, because I probably would have taken all of their advice and not been as successful as I had been in the last 2 years. And it's like, I think too often when people are thinking about starting a business, they go and they're like, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z. I have to do this. This is what the experts say, and this is what they're telling me to do. And they get so focused on that, they have to do all of that rather than like, what feels right for you, what feels good for you, focus on doing those things.
Yeah, I always say like you got to learn a variety of methods, but then you got to put your own spin on it. So it's like, I know how to do TikTok. I know how to like do all the things on social
Yeah.
media. I know how to grow a Twitter audience, but I don't do it because it's just not my place right now. I'm not interested in it. I'm like, you got to do what feels fun. And like, as things start to feel more automatic for you, then you can add more stuff into your repertoire. But yeah, you could have like Gary V advising you on your social media strategy, but like if it's not fun, then you're not going to do it. Because that's the other thing too, is that most people don't start businesses because they like marketing, other than like marketing firms and like me as a business coach, right? Like other than actual marketers, nobody really enjoys business strategy. They just want to do the thing, right? Like they just want to run the break room. They just want to run the bookstore. They want to like have that community place. They just want to coach people or teach yoga or whatever it is. So you have to start with what feels fun. So if it's not fun, you're not going to want to do it.
Well, I think one of the things that all three of you hit on was you need to be authentic. So I know with Dawn, when she looks into doing a new shirt or running a new type of campaign, it's always something that comes from the heart. So, we celebrate Pride Month. We're going to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month. I mean, things that really mean something to her. And, Nicole's a little bit snarky and has one of my absolute favorite shirts. She made a shirt out of a 1-star review. Nicole, can you talk about that for a minute? Because I just think that's the greatest damn thing.
I'm
Oh my
obsessed
God.
with bad review merch. And we get a ton of crap on social media and Google reviews and stuff because people can be badasses from behind a computer screen that they would never say to me to my face. And so I got a Google review that said, if you have conservative values and you love your country, don't shop here. And so I took a screenshot immediately. It was like, yep, this is going to happen. Turned it into a t-shirt and I put the quote of their review on it. And then underneath it put veteran-owned business open since 2020. And it's one of my bestseller t-shirts and I adore it so much.
Oh my God. Now I know what I'm getting my fiance for his birthday.
It is a delight.
I too enjoy bad reviews.
Yes.
Especially when they have my name specifically in it, right? So I got into a Facebook argument with somebody because they were looking for property manager.
Yep.
And I pointed us out, right? And they're like, oh, they're only a 2.3 star and bunch of reviews. And I was like, why don't you go ahead and read those reviews, right? And I was like, it's funny thing is because the guy knows me. I was like, you know me. And he's like, why? And I was like, just go read them real quick and then we'll have this conversation. And he goes, Nick, your name's in there quite a bit. Like, it just says you're an asshole. We know that. Oh, Nick was disrespectful. Yeah, we get that. Yeah. And then it's like, wouldn't come fix my faucet within the matter of like 12 minutes after I called him. And, like you could just read into how it happened. And I was like, so you're going to tell me I'm a bad manager because I don't do what the fuck you want when you want it? I was like, no. Like, did it, but you don't ever see anybody go back and fix it and go, update, this was done professionally. And then, you just never get that type of a thing.
We had a customer actually comment back on one of our comments going, it's really funny to me that all the bad comments on here, it was on like Google reviews. All the bad reviews are the ones that just seem like they didn't follow the simple rules.
Yeah.
And then we also got to the point where we started going, well, we've gone back and we watched the video and it looks like your group had a good time until you broke a rule.
Well, and I think my favorite is, so we had a group in here and the parents came like 20 minutes late. And Dawn said, well, you can go watch, but you're not allowed to go in the room. And they went back there and all of a sudden they're in the room. And she got back there and saw it and kicked him out. And this kid, I say kid, he's probably 25 years old, is running his freaking mouth the whole way out the door. And I will admit, I'm a little bit of a hothead. And I can say anything I want about my wife. You do the same thing about yours.
Fact.
But nobody else can say a damn thing.
Fact.
So I literally followed this jackass out the fucking door because I was fucking pissed. And their review was, and the big guy looked like he wanted to do break room therapy on my face. No shit, motherfucker, I did.
It's because I was going to.
Yeah, but what did we comment back? Your group had a good time until
you broke the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you can't take reviews personally. Sometimes you have to just realize that they're not for the
Oh,
you. And
oh.
you know, and on that note,
I
one of the
take it
things
personally.
lately I've been having people comment on like, well, I can't believe this is a thing, or
Yep.
this isn't what people should be doing. So I've just been commenting it back with this little image I found one time that says, the next time you see someone enjoying something that isn't hurting anyone, that's not your cup of tea, instead of saying something negative, train yourself to think to yourself, I'm glad they're happy, and carry on with your life. Because guess what? It's not all for everybody.
So real quick, Jessie, you had when you were talking, you had kind of mentioned what this year looks like up until June. So that brings me to my next question is, how often do you focus on your goals, and how often do you like look at those, and how often do you set them? Are your goals important to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we said on the last episode I was on, we were both saying that when we run out of goals, we're gonna die. Like that's that's how it's gonna happen. Like
Factual statement.
I always have like a goal on hand, and like yeah, they're always at the forefront of my mind. I'm a Pisces sun moon, so I'm a dreamer. Like I'm always thinking about like what I want and how I'm gonna get there. My big thing is connecting it to the now, because like, and I don't know how to pronounce the name. It's some kind of French name, so I'm not gonna bother, but you can Google it. It's a quote that says, a dream without a plan is just a wish. And that's like my big thing is I ask myself, like, you know, what's the thing that I couldn't live without in the next year, right? Like, what's the thing that I would be really disappointed if I didn't put some focus on it, or if I didn't do it at least once, or I didn't get closer to it. And it's hard. Like you have to, like, I like to do it like every 6 months. I kind of check in, because our goals change. Because as we change and as our businesses grow and change, like some things fall away, right? Like I've wanted a book deal for as long as I can remember, but you know, my manifestation of that, like how I described it a few years ago, it would have been like top 5 publisher. Like I would have wanted to be with one of the top 5. I would have wanted like a 6-figure advance. I would have wanted something like that, and I'm always questioning why I want the things that I want, to see like, is this really authentic to me? And when I really unpacked that, so that was something I did on January 1st, I realized like, well, why is it that I want a top 5 publisher? Like, is that something where I really admire them? I really want to be with a specific house, or is it just something else? And I realized, no, I'm just like associating that with resources. So a big publisher means that they'll put money behind a marketing campaign, or they'll invest in me. They'll show their belief in it by like using publicity. And I was like, okay, well then it's not about the top 5 publisher then. It's actually about a publisher who's going to market what I want, who's going to put money behind the marketing. And then I asked myself, like, why do I want a 6-figure advance? What am I saying about that? And I was like, what is it about that that's attractive to me? And it's just about somebody's belief in what I have to say. And I was like, oh, well, then the money doesn't actually matter. What I want is someone who's really passionate about my idea and about me and my voice. And so when I stripped it back, that was the list of like what I really wrote down for January 1st. Is I said, I want a publisher who's willing to like put a lot of marketing money behind me. I don't care about the advance. I don't care how big the publisher is. I want someone who believes in me and someone who's passionate about me and what I have to say. That's what matters to me.
Sure.
And like the offer I got that I'm like proudly going to take, like that's exactly what I had like laid out in the offer letter, was exactly everything that I wanted. And, you know, that's why I like to do this every 6 months. It's like I could plan for the whole year. I could plan my workshops for the whole year, but I don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. And for me, I like to leave room for spontaneity, and I like to leave room for change. You know, I might do some speaking gigs in the next 6 months and be like, that's so draining. I am done. No, thank you. I don't want to do that anymore. But I won't know until I do it. So, you know, I might have things on my like goals list of like, oh, I want to do like a national speaking tour. And I might get to a point and be like, I'm too tired to do that. No, thank you. Like, I don't know. I won't know until I'm actually doing it. but I try to look at like, what are my goals for my life? What would I like to achieve in 10 years? What would I like to achieve in 5 years? And then I try to pick one. Like I pick, all you can do is one at a time, right? Like, so my focus my focus is going to be this book for the next 6 months, and then we'll see what it is after that. I also, like, when it comes to money in my business, I try not to focus too much on like figures out of ego. So like I get a lot of entrepreneurs who seem to care about like, I want to make 10K months, 10K months, 10K months. You'll see it everywhere. I want to make $10,000 a month. And they don't think about it. Like they don't, like, because like, yeah, high-end coaching packages, you can easily do that. Like it costs 10 grand to like work with me one-on-one for 3 months. Like, I could easily do that. But the thing is that you got to wonder like, well, why is it? Why do I want that? What am I associating with it? And also, is that figure, first of all, does it feel achievable to me? Like, am I able to achieve this every month? And then B, like, am I picking that number for some self-worth thing? And if it's because of the self-worth thing, that it's not actually an authentic number. So I actually just did this whole workshop with a few people where I said, all right, what's your goal for the year? What's your money goal for the year based on your expenses? So like day one was like, go through all your expenses. What are all your business expenses? What do you want to invest in this year? Like, do you want to hire a coach? Do you want to hire a virtual assistant? Figure out what kind of money you need to come in. And I was like, and then look at your offers, have those prices like in front of you for everything. And then it's like, all right, I want to make 100K we'll keep it easy math. I want to make 100K this year. Like, and I'm like, okay, great. So on average, that's going to be like $12,500 a month, like to average out. That doesn't mean that that's where you need to set it. So I'm like, all right, how much would you have to sell to hit that on average, right? And that's when a lot of people go, oh shit, my prices, I would have to sell so much to get to that point. Or, I had one person who said like, oh yeah, I only have to sell to 3 clients. And if they all pay me in full, like I'm set. I'm like, all right, and how many hours are you working for these 3 clients? And she's like, 45 hours. It's great. I'm like, okay, so what do you do in March? You got no hours. How are you going to sell? You can't sell to anybody now. And she was like, oh shit, you're right. And I was like, yeah, I'm right. You got to like think about these things. And the reason I make people do those activities is because you have to learn to separate the income and the money goals from being about you and your self-worth. It just literally just needs to be a math problem. It just needs to be, these are my expenses. So this is how much money I want to make. These are the investments I want to do. This is how much debt I want to pay off. This is how much money I want to save. And therefore this is the money I'm going to make. And even if I have plenty of people who are like, I want to make 100K this year, but I've never made over $5,000. I'm like, okay, so that's fine. Your first goal for February is going to be $5,000. And your goal for March is going to be $6,000. And, if you're able to hit them, the more you hit them, you build steam. So you might be able to like leapfrog up. And then, in the fall, maybe you can be making 20K months. You could do it. I'm not going to tell you no. You could absolutely do it. But the thing is that if you can't set goals that feel achievable, then like you're never going to get there. So that's why I like to check in like every 6 months. I basically do like a end of December, early January, and then I do a June, like late June, early July.
Sure.
Well, in Spring GR, they teach 30, 60, 90, because what your goal is today in 30 days is going to be possibly a different goal in 30 days from now. But always looking at your goals and seeing where you're at and, did you hit them? Did you not hit them? Do you need to adjust them? But yeah.
No, and that's it. It's funny. 10K seems to be a lot of people. So I'm sitting around a campfire on a lake with 10 investors, right? And we, at this moment, I knew one of them really well. The other one I've only met like twice. And then the rest of them, I had no real idea. And that was kind of the same for everybody. Everybody brought one person. So, out of this 5, 5 couples, let's call it. But like, we didn't know each other. It was funny. So I'd sit and, what's your goal? 10K. 10K a month, 10K a month. And I'm just laughing about this. I was like, why the hell do you want 10? Like, what is so specific about this 10K? Well, most people don't hit 10K. And I was like, most people don't hit $2 billion. Like, you know, why? And it just seemed like, honestly, 7 out of these 10 people, I being one that didn't care, they were so financially driven on this aspect, right? And, you know, my answer was, you know, hey, all right, over the course of this time, like, I want to add this many units, whatever it brings, right? Like, I'm not going to do, like, if I find a house that brings me in 100,000, you know, a month or whatever, that's great. If I bring one in that brings me, you know, $300, like, I know that, hey, this is how many I want to do. And so one of my friends, right, who his initial goal was 10K, hit it within like 6 months, like just flew, right? And he's like, man, that was the stupidest thing I've ever done. I should have said, like, you know, 25K. And now he's really focused on like 100,000 a month, like just absolutely flying, right? But no disrespect to him in any way, shape, or form, right? He doesn't see his kid, you know. I mean, he's very focused on his business. We get together very limited. When we do, I get him very, very drunk. We talk business. It's amazing for those 5 hours, and that's it. But it's like we have a completely different life mindset, right? He is very focused on. Come to find out, he has, you know, generations above him, very, very well off. I mean, we're talking, you know, in the 100,000 or $100 million, right? Like, and he's like, yeah, but we never talked about that type of stuff. And he's like, I want to do generational wealth. And I was like, I get it. Like, whether you know it's been put in your mind, it's really been, you have something to prove to somebody else, right? Like me, you know, like Nicole, like she said, she comes from no money. Like I come from nothing. So it's like, man, I've already beat my entire family's income combined, right? Like my parents, you could throw it in. You could add my brothers and sisters. I've beat their money, right? Like I have nothing to prove to anybody but myself. Like, what is it for me? So I try to focus on personal self goals. What do I want to have, right? Not what everybody else thinks I should have.
Well,
Something you said too, like, which like a lot of people, like they get obsessed with the trapping of like what that number means, right? It's like, well, not everybody gets there. So that's why I want to get there. And I like to point out to people that any number you come up with is always going to be a cap. Because that's always telling you what you think the ceiling is for you at this point in time. Because like, and so I tell people who really struggle with money goals, either because they're like, well, I want to get there because that's nobody gets there, or like, I know I'll be successful when I'm at that point, or, you know, or it's not a real business until I'm at that point, whatever it is. And I say to them, like, why are you telling the universe to limit how much to send you? I said, what if the universe wants to send you 20K and you've only asked for 10, and so you're not going to get the client who wants to pay you 20K? And they're like, oh shit, I never thought about that. So I'm like, yeah, that's why you just need to, like, it cannot be attached to how you view your success and your deservingness.
So I know we need to wrap up soon because Nicole wants to go get dinner, and I don't blame her one bit.
Tacos.
But Dawn and I were talking this weekend about, you know, a former customer we have that decided what we do is easy and they're going to open their own business. And, you know, they blamed the pandemic on the fact that it crashed and burned. Why are you looking at me weird?
I don't know what you're referring to, so I'm listening while you talk.
And, you know, one of the things we kept saying was, you know, when we looked to go into business, we didn't have other competing things for our lives. Like they kept closing on Friday nights to go to their son's football games. Now, there's nothing more important in my life than coaching my daughter in softball for 12 years, but I didn't try to open a business while she was playing softball because it wasn't going to happen. I knew my goals at that point. I knew my priorities, and it was going to be at every softball game sitting there, you know, telling her what to do or having her yell at me for telling her to do something stupid. But, you know, I was never going to say, hey, I'm going to miss all of the time with you to go open this business, or I'm going to close the business so I can go spend time with you, because that's not taking care of that business at that point. And honestly, we look at where you are, and you're really always doing something for this, even if you are at home.
You mean like the 3 emails I responded to?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you know, as a business owner, you not only do you have to disconnect, you're going to disconnect next week. Jessie said take time off, but you never work 9 to 5 because you're always kind of, on call. Nick knows it, running his business. You run yours. I'm sure Nicole runs through the same issues.
I think it's finding your happy medium. Yes, you want to have your time off and you want to do the things that you want to do, but you also have to try and find time to grow your business as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a saying in like the online coaching space that has been recently getting a lot of heat because a lot of like these big successful coaches who, it seems like their whole marketing brand is all around like, look at this Louis Vuitton purse I bought, look at this Range Rover I drive. Like it's very much like these kind of materialistic trappings of success. And that's like, see, I can travel the world. And if you invest in me, you can too. And a lot of them say it gets to be easy. It gets to be easy. It gets to be easy. And everybody's like, what the fuck does that even mean? And some people have been starting to say like, that's bullshit. Like it's not easy. Like, what are you saying? But what I've realized is like what they're trying to communicate and failing to is that not like there's no one path to success. And so you cannot force yourself to do the things that are going to be inherently draining or infuriating for you. It gets to be easy means that you get to run your business however you want. However you want. You get to use whatever methods you want. You get to work with whoever you want. You can like if you wanted to like interview people to hire by like giving them personality quizzes from BuzzFeed, you could. Like you get to do whatever you want. And like they just don't really connect it to saying like it's not about having a cookie cutter approach. It's about like really like learning to dial into what works best for you. It's like the Venn diagram of like what you enjoy and then what works for your business. Like it's that middle ground. Mm-hmm. And like when you pursue that overlapping space, that's when that magic happens. It's the marriage of the practical strategies and like the mindset stuff and the fun. That's what creates the magical effect. That's what allows you to be a bookstore making $160,000 a year. Like when you're like, yeah, it's like, that's what happens. Like that's where the magic is it's in that. Like you have to do it yourself. The problem is that the reason they don't say that is because they're all selling cookie cutter strategies, but that's a rant for another day.
Yeah. So, Nicole, final thoughts and plug the business as always.
So I had to laugh. A friend of mine and I were talking the other day, and she also owns a bookstore, and she's like, yeah, I gave up the 9 to 5 to work 24/7 and I love it. And I was like, that I feel. I was on vacation in the Dominican working, and I stepped away as much as I've ever stepped away from the business, but I was still like running social media and answering questions, and I was reading stuff for the store. And so that idea of like, find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life is true, but also not true. You're going to work your ass off and you're going to work harder than you've ever worked in your entire life, but you're going to feel so fulfilled and excited about it. And as soon as you don't, you're no longer doing the right thing that you should be doing. And so I think that, I like to hear the advice of the experts, and I'll continue to go to entrepreneur things and hear what they have to say and challenge myself and try and learn things. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is just go with your intuition, go with your gut, try things, fail, try things again, fail another way, keep going. And so it's working out all right. And if you want to come to a really cool bookstore in Lowell, come out to Betty's Pages or find us on social media. We're Betty's Pages everywhere, especially our TikTok is fantastic. And you can buy from us online on our website, bettyspages.com.
And that's Betty, Bettie.
Yes.
There you go. I'll probably be out there very soon. I'm actually looking at a roller skating rink bowling alley.
Oh, goody. It needs a new owner. Just don't put a pot shop in because they won't let you.
Actually, they will. They'll let you put a pot shop in. They will not let you put a grow operation in, which is what the owner wants right now.
So if that's your plan, you're going to want to come to the planning commission that's happening soon, because they are proposing not allowing any pot facilities east of the river, which includes that space.
No, my plan is to own a roller skating rink and a bowling alley.
Yeah, Nick wants to own a bowling alley.
I hope to have a couple arcade games in there, get the mini golf thing back going, and just talk trash to little kids who are on a mini golf course.
You haven't. a couple arcade games in your garage.
Shut up, Courtney.
Just saying. Jessie, go ahead. Plugs. I love your plugs.
Well, I've got a free training group on Facebook. That's 5, and you can get there by going to 5figurelaunchqueens.com. It's 5, the number 5, figurelaunchqueens.com. That's like where there's like trainings, free courses, all of that stuff. I talk about mindset. I talk about actual strategies. I talk about pricing, like all the things that you want are there. I do my free trainings also on TikTok, but TikTok doesn't let me save them because they're like an hour long every single time. So you can come for the live one there, but I'm on TikTok at Millennial Money Witch. So you can come watch my millennial rants there and stay in touch with all of my, like all my silliness. And then I have a group for job hunters and people who want to stay in traditional employment. So I still help with all of that, finding your dream job at a dream company for dream pay. That's 6figurecareerqueens.com. Again, number 6. And I just want to clarify, everyone's a queen. Everyone's a queen. Men are queen. Non-binary people are queens. Everyone's a queen in these groups. Okay. So I work with all kinds of people, all kinds of issues, and everybody who joins my groups, they get a free 20-minute call with me to just help you pivot and get onto the right track. So whether you work with me or never work with me, you know, I think everybody deserves access to a high ticket coach.
If I call you from 5 different numbers, do I get 20 minutes off of each number?
You have to book it on Acuity, so I'll know it's you.
Okay.
I reserve the right to cancel repeat bookings.
It's okay. I'm thinking about getting a coach because
You should talk to me. Let's
Where-
set something up.
where I'm at right now is, I mean, I'm doing fine. The problem
I'm
is it's
also like the
fine.
gateway friend, so even if you don't work with me, I know who to work with. Like
Right.
I've got the plug on all the other good coaches too.
Yeah.
So I got lots of, even if it's not a fit with me, I'm always referring out because I want everybody to get the help that they.
Right, from the
that they
right person
deserve.
too, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be a right fit. If it's not a fuck yes, then it's a fuck no.
Right.
So,
Dawn?
and also Nicole and I are going to be best friends now. So if I ever do a book tour, I'm going to come to Betty's
Yes.
pages.
I want to be opening night. Like I want to be your first place.
Wow.
I
Will
think,
pay in beer.
yeah, I think we have a remote that day.
We do have a remote that day.
Yeah.
It's weird. You said September 2023?
We'll see. That's the estimation, but I'm sure
Yeah, I think
things
I'll be
are
in
always
town
subject
then.
to change.
Oh, I'll definitely be in town then.
I mean, I'll have to clear my schedule. But yeah, first
Yeah.
tour stop, Michigan, all the way up here. September's not quite cold yet.
No.
This could work out. I'll have my
Alright.
people get with your people. You know what I'm saying?
Dawn,
Sounds
go ahead and
great.
plug.
Yeah, so break room therapy. We are West Michigan's only rage room, a safe space to decompress from your stress by breaking glass or electronics, or just because it's fun to break shit too. We are on all of the social medias, and going back to just business ownership. Yeah, I have people that think that because we're open 4 days a week, that must mean I have 3 days off. No, if you're a business owner, you're going to work a lot of hours, but I love what I do. I believe in what we're doing. I believe in the business itself. And there might be some days that I only work 3 or 4 hours, but you are still working 7 days a week. But like Nicole said, a lot of times it doesn't feel like work, except for the days that we're open and we're busting our ass. But I love what we do, and I'm really proud of what we've grown it into.
What's the coolest marketing thing you paid for?
Best $80 I ever spent was reaching out to AJ Nadeau, who was Samir on Office Space. Actually, step back. I contacted Michael Bolton, the character Michael Bolton, but his name is David. What doesn't matter? 'Cause
Herman.
David Herman told me to basically take a leap off of the ledge because he doesn't help businesses with their promotions. But AJ Nadeau, who played Samir on Office Space, was all about that. And if you go to my website, breakroomtherapy.com, you'll see AJ Nadeau giving me a badass shout out. So Mr. Naga.
Intuition, there you go.
yeah,
That's for sure.
That was
Okay.
your intuition. That's like something only you could have thought of. I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah,
So-
best $80 in marketing ever spent.
Big shout out to Jessie, and also you guys, but a bigger shout out to Jessie because she sent us beer.
Beer.
Deep Brewing Company in Tallahassee.
They're
So both
so
of these-
good. They're my
Yes, they're both.
favorites.
Yeah, Calypso 85 bourbon barrel aged Cuban coffee imperial stout brewed with coffee and milk sugar.
And the Narcosis Bourbon Barrel Imperial Stout.
That was so
I just
cream.
want
That
to
was so
selfishly say
fantastic.
that if it wasn't for the business, though, you wouldn't have the podcast room. So
That's very true. We do podcast in the
Don has
upstairs of Break Room Therapy.
Don has sponsored us and gotten us more sponsors than
She
anybody.
really has.
But so hey, Nicole, thanks for lowering your game pretty well. So the only person here we're not giving the extra credit to is
Fine.
Nicole. I would say,
I'm
no,
used to it.
we really do appreciate you being on here.
Yeah, honestly,
go get some dinner. We're sorry it took so long.
you girls have a open invitation anytime we're recording to come join us.
Love it.
Thanks.
So you
Thanks for
guys-
having me, guys.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you so
again.
Thank
much.
you for coming, Jessie.
It's good to see you guys again.
Nick, you're normal.
Guys, we appreciate you listening. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. We really appreciate all of the love and the feedback here.
We do, and again, thanks to Jack Razor for our highest downloaded episode so far.
With our highest, sweetest shirts. If you guys want a shirt, go ahead and reach out to us. We'll find a way to get you one.
Hopefully this will beat that one. Thanks, Mike, for joining us. How was your beer?
It's good.
It was good.
Mike has a lot of words, so we'll catch you guys next week.
I've said I'm the eye candy. I'm not the words.
You've dialed in to Box and Brews. You might hear something you can use, like tips under cash or tips on the suds. You're gonna want to use the smarts of these stuff, cause they know the brews, and they know the box, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks. So listen up, cause shit's not funny, and save yourself some beer money. Bucks and Brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
Brews.
and Brews.
Bucks and Brews.